I don't think people understand just how quickly the Alaska Highway went from a lifeline to a road to nowhere. Welcome back to Universal Insight. Please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon below for more updates. The Alaska Highway, a legendary ribbon of road stretching over 1,390 miles from Dawson Creek, British Columbia to Delta Junction, Alaska, is usually alive with travelers and truckers. Built in 1942 as a strategic military supply route during World War II, the highway carved its way through some of the most rugged and remote wilderness in North America. Over the decades, it became a lifeline for communities, a symbol of resilience and a bucket list journey for adventurers from around the world. But in June 2025, that lifeline was eerily empty. Smoke hung in the air, and a distant siren was the only sign of life. For those stranded, it felt like the end of the world, cut off with no way forward or back. The deserted highway quickly became a viral image, fueling wild speculation online. Was this a political standoff? An international crisis? The silence of the road seemed to confirm everyone's worst fears. Social media and talk radio exploded with rumors, each more dramatic than the last. Travelers gathered in diners, trading stories and theories as uncertainty grew. The empty road, once a symbol of connection, now stood for isolation and confusion. Online, the image was twisted into a narrative of conflict between allies. But the truth behind the closure was far more complicated and far less dramatic than the rumors suggested. In those tense hours, the Alaska Highway's silence spoke louder than any headline. For a road built to unite and protect, its emptiness was a haunting reminder of how quickly connection can turn to isolation. The internet ran wild with a sensational story. Canada had supposedly blockaded the Alaska Highway, halting all American traffic as a form of retaliation against the U.S. Reports claimed that RCMP officers and Canadian border agents were turning away American travelers, while U.S. customs agents ramped up inspections in response. Headlines screamed betrayal, and social media fanned the flames. One viral tweet read, "Canada just shut down the Alaska Highway, Americans stranded." Facebook groups filled with angry posts and speculation. The story grew. President Trump, the rumors claimed, hit back with threats of economic or even military retaliation. News tickers flashed, "Trump threatens response to Canadian blockade." In one press conference, a White House spokesperson was even asked, "Will the U.S. consider military options?" Online commentators stitched together dramatic clips, turning speculation into fact. YouTube videos with titles like "Canada versus USA Border War" racked up millions of views, while TikTok creators added dramatic music to border footage. The narrative was irresistible. Two nations locked in a high-stakes showdown. Protesters gathered at border crossings, waving flags and demanding action. People shared videos and articles, fueling a feedback loop of outrage and confirmation bias. Reddit threads exploded with theories and supposed eyewitness accounts. The story was simple, emotional, and perfectly designed to go viral. One interviewee claimed, "I heard my cousin was stuck at the border for 12 hours. It tapped into existing tensions, making it easy to believe and even easier to spread." Local news stations interviewed frustrated truckers and community leaders at tense town hall meetings. But beneath the drama, there was no real evidence, just a digital wildfire of misinformation. Fact-checkers quickly debunked the claims, but the story had already spread. The outrage machine churned, dividing people over a story built on fiction. Arguments erupted online and on TV, with both sides convinced they were right. All it needed was a single gust of truth to blow it away. Eventually, an official government statement clarified. The border was never closed, and the so-called blockade was nothing more than a rumor gone wild. As the online frenzy raged, a crucial question emerged. Where was the proof? Investigative journalists began digging for answers. Major news outlets were silent, with no breaking news or special reports. No official statements, no press conferences, and no credible reports from government agencies. The so-called evidence was a web of YouTube videos and fringe blogs, all referencing each other without verifiable sources. Clips of politicians and roadblocks were stitched together, but context was missing. Investigators noted that these clips were often months old or from unrelated events. Fact-checkers traced the rumors back to anonymous forums and partisan sites, finding no original documentation or eyewitness accounts. The roadblocks were real, but not political. Local authorities confirmed they were routine safety checks, not part of any shutdown. The quotes were real, but unrelated. Experts in media analysis pointed out how statements were taken out of context to fit the narrative. No credible source, no government, law enforcement, or transportation authority confirmed a blockade. Investigative teams uncovered inconsistencies in the timeline and sources, exposing the story as a digital ghost story. Experts in crisis communication explained that an incident of this scale couldn't be hidden. There would be travel warnings, corporate statements, and government action. In the end, the only place the blockade existed was online, fueled by speculation and misinformation. The viral blockade story had a kernel of truth. Real political tensions simmered earlier that year, echoing a long history of economic disputes between the US and Canada. In March, President Trump threatened new tariffs on Canadian goods, reviving a tactic used for decades to protect domestic industries and pressure trading partners. British Columbia's Premier David Eby responded with plans for tolls on commercial trucks using the highway to Alaska, a financial counterpunch rooted in the long tradition of using transportation costs as leverage in trade disputes, not a blockade. He also announced a ban on certain U.S. liquors in government stores, specifically targeting products from Republican-led states. Whiskey, a symbolically loaded export, has often been caught in the crossfire of trade wars, recalling past disputes where alcohol tariffs became a tool for political messaging and economic retaliation. Yukon considered its own symbolic responses, like favoring Canadian products or barring high-profile American visitors, gestures that harken back to earlier eras of cross-border tension. But none of these measures involved closing the highway. The economic impacts were real: higher costs for truckers, uncertainty for businesses, and potential price hikes for consumers, but the flow of goods and people continued. The real actions were about economic pressure, not physical barriers. Tariffs and tolls have long been used to send political messages and extract concessions, while products like whiskey become pawns in a larger game. The truth was a tense negotiation, not a dramatic standoff. An economic chess match shaped by history, politics, and the power of trade. The Alaska Highway remained open, until nature intervened, reminding everyone that sometimes, it's not politics but the land itself that draws the line. The real reason for the highway closure had nothing to do with politics. It was wildfire. But behind the scenes, the situation was even more dire than most realized. In late May, the Summit Lake wildfire erupted in northern British Columbia, fueled by drought and relentless winds. Emergency teams scrambled to respond, but the fire's speed outpaced even their best efforts. By early June, the fire had grown out of control, threatening the highway and nearby communities. Residents described the fear of watching flames creep closer, unsure if they'd have time to escape. Authorities closed the road near Fort Nelson for public safety, as smoke and flames made travel impossible. For many, the closure was a lifeline. One evacuee said, "If they hadn't closed the road, we might not have made it out." This was an emergency response, not a political move. Behind closed doors, officials weighed every option, knowing lives were at stake. Evacuations were ordered, travelers stranded, and local resources stretched thin. Shelters filled quickly, and volunteers worked tirelessly to help frightened families. The Stewart-Cassiar Highway was also closed after a tanker accident, compounding the crisis and leaving some feeling trapped. Firefighters battled the blaze around the clock, sometimes breaking down from exhaustion and emotion. The highway reopened and closed as conditions changed. Each decision weighed heavily. The sirens were for fire trucks, not soldiers. One responder said, "We just wanted to save as many people as we could." The empty highway was a testament to nature's power, not political division. For those who lived through it, the shutdown was about survival, community, and courage in the face of disaster. The Alaska Highway shutdown is a powerful lesson in how quickly misinformation can spread, and why facts matter more than ever. Real political tensions were twisted into a viral fiction, while the true story, a wildfire emergency, was overshadowed by rumors and speculation. The fake story was simple and dramatic, the real one was complex and human. Misinformation like this can lead to panic, misdirected outrage, and even dangerous decisions. Online outrage erased the real struggles of communities and firefighters. In past crises, false reports have caused people to ignore evacuation orders or distrust emergency services, with tragic results. In a world where anyone can publish, seeking verified information is more important than ever. Remember the false hurricane maps that led people into danger, or viral hoaxes that delayed aid to those in need. Sharing unchecked headlines fuels division and anxiety, obscuring the facts and sometimes putting lives at risk. Trusting credible news outlets is essential civic hygiene. When we rely on facts, we make better decisions for ourselves and our communities. The real story was about resilience, not rivalry. Facts help us see the true heroes and the real challenges. Learning to tell fact from fiction is a skill we all need, because the consequences of misinformation are real, and the truth matters to everyone. As the Alaska highway shutdown unfolded, the world watched and reacted. On social media, hashtags like #HighwayTruth and #AlaskaBlockade trended for days. Some posts echoed the viral rumors, while others tried to set the record straight. One tweet read, "Why aren't we talking about the real reason? My cousin's stuck in talk." Another, from a local firefighter, pleaded, "Please stop spreading false info. We're risking our lives out here." In interviews, residents shared their confusion and frustration. A store owner in Whitehorse described empty shelves and anxious customers. No one knew what to believe. First it was a blockade, then the fire. We just wanted the facts. Emergency workers recalled the challenge of fighting both flames and false narratives. "It felt like we were battling two fires, one in the forest and one online," said a volunteer. But amid the chaos, there were moments of solidarity. Community groups organized supply runs and shared verified updates. A Facebook post from a local youth group read, "Let's help our neighbors. Facts first, rumors last." These small acts of unity brought hope and clarity in uncertain times. The shutdown was more than a headline. It was a shared ordeal, shaped by voices near and far. In the end, it reminded us that the stories we tell, and the ones we choose to believe, have real power to shape our response, our resilience, and our recovery. So, what does the future hold for the Alaska Highway? Experts say the recent shutdown could be a turning point. Transportation analysts predict new investments in infrastructure and emergency planning. There's talk of smarter monitoring systems, improved fire breaks, and better crisis communication, all designed to keep the vital route open and safe. Some experts warn that challenges are far from over. With climate change increasing the risk of wildfires and extreme weather, the highway may face more disruptions in the years ahead. But others see opportunity. This could be a wake-up call for lasting improvements, says Dr. Linda Chen, a logistics specialist. With the right changes, the highway can be safer and more resilient than ever. As for possible resolutions, local governments are already meeting with indigenous leaders, emergency services and transportation companies, their goal to create a coordinated response plan and restore public trust. Meanwhile, community groups continue to push for transparency and reliable updates. So what can you do? Stay informed, follow trusted news sources, verify what you share online, and support local efforts to keep everyone safe. The Alaska Highway story isn't over. Together, we can help shape what happens next, on the road and beyond.